Moving halfway across the world sounded like an adventure, but I didn't expect loneliness to hit me this hard. Despite self-identifying as an introvert, the majority of my life I've been labeled by friends, family, and acquaintances as an extrovert through and through. I guess that's duality. I enjoy the company of others that I like, but I have no problem spending days, or even weeks sometimes, alone. And often, that's what it's like living in Vietnam. Sometimes the most conversation I'll have outside of working is, "How are you?" "I'm good. Thanks." "Xin chào." "Come on." "Hen Gep Lai." I have a few friends here, but I want to put the emphasis on the few. I'm grateful for them, but I still miss my friends back in the States. All the time. Anyways, welcome back to PlanetDarris. In this video, I want to share my personal experience with loneliness as an American living in Vietnam and how I've learned to navigate it. I've been living in Saigon for over a year now, by chance, destiny, and fate alone. I never really intended on being here that long. Life just happened. It always just happens. Before semi-settling in Vietnam, I had traveled halfway around the world with the exceptions of the continents, South America, Africa, and Antarctica. I guess I still have the other half to go. I still plan on going to those places, but I have to change my life in a substantial way before I can hit the road again. Vietnam is like a pit stop for my character and self-development. A place that I actually always wanted to visit since I was a kid. Ironically, when I was younger, all I knew about Vietnam was the Vietnam War, the iconic conical hats, and that it rained a lot in Vietnam. I think I learned most of that from Forrest Gump. I used to hate the rain, but it's become something that I've learned to appreciate and respect, especially when it rains 6 months out of the year where you're living. Loneliness is something we don't talk about enough when it comes to moving abroad. We picture the adventure, the excitement, the new experiences, but what happens when the novelty fades and you find yourself feeling isolated? Living in Vietnam as a foreigner is incredible in so many ways, but that doesn't mean it's always easy. There are moments when you feel like a guest in someone else's world, trying to belong, but always a little bit on the outside. One of the biggest challenges is the language barrier. Even with my basic Vietnamese, there's a difference between speaking and truly connecting. The deeper conversations, inside jokes, culture, the effortless flow of conversation. They can just feel out of reach sometimes. Then there's the culture itself. Vietnam has beautiful traditions and a strong sense of community, but as an outsider, it can take time to understand the unspoken rules of social interactions. You might feel unsure of when to speak up, how to express emotions, or even what's considered polite and impolite. And of course, there's the distance from home, family, lifelong friends, the places that made you feel grounded. Suddenly, they're all on the other side of the world, and you're here. You miss birthdays, weddings, celebrations, even the small everyday moments like chilling at a friend's house, binging a Netflix series. Things that don't seem like much until they're gone. But perhaps the hardest part is finding a true sense of belonging. Expats come and go, and local friendships take time to build. It's easy to feel like you exist in a space between worlds, never fully part of one or the other. So, how do you navigate this loneliness? How do you find your place in a country that isn't yours by birth, but has become home in so many ways? At first, I thought loneliness would be something I could just push through. I've always been resilient. It's one of the few traits I can proudly admit to. I figured I'd be too busy exploring, meeting people, and adapting to even notice it. But it hits in unexpected ways. It's in the quiet moments. Walking through a crowded street, eating alone at a restaurant, or scrolling through messages from friends back home and realizing I'm missing out on their lives while trying to build my own here. Homesickness isn't just about missing people. It's missing the feeling of being understood without effort. And when I got sick here for the first time, it really sank in. No comfort food from home, no familiar pharmacy, no family members to check in. Just me, in a foreign country, trying to figure it out. Then there's the mental toll. Overthinking everything. Why am I here? Am I wasting my time? Should I have stayed home? It's weird to feel guilty for feeling lonely in such a beautiful place. Like I should be grateful for every second. But the truth is, no matter where you are in the world, you have to sit with yourself at the end of the day. Self-doubt, or should I say self-confidence, has always been something I've struggled with. But after a while, you realize doubting yourself when you're alone is the worst thing you can do. That's when you need to believe in yourself the most. Some days, I question if I'll ever fully belong here. Other days, I realize that maybe belonging isn't about finding the perfect place. It's about learning to be okay with where you are, even in the lonely moments. Loneliness doesn't go away just on its own. You have to do something about it. At first, I didn't know where to start, but I slowly found ways to build life here, or to make life here more like home. The biggest thing was building connections. I started putting myself out there, talking to locals, even when my Vietnamese was non-existent, and meeting expats who understood what I was going through. Some friendships happened over shared meals, others from random conversations in coffee shops. Little by little, I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. Then I created a routine. It sounded simple, but having some small daily rituals gave me something to hold on to. A morning coffee spot where they started recognizing me, an evening walk through the city to clear my head. These little things made a difference. And when I started feeling stuck, I started to remind myself why I came here in the first place, to take over the world. Just kidding, to explore. Traveling within Vietnam helped shift my focus, seeing new places, meeting new people, and experiencing moments that reminded me why I fell in love with this country in the first place. It all helped me reconnect. Loneliness doesn't disappear overnight, but I learned that the more I embraced life, the less space loneliness had to grow. I've learned that loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. Loneliness has a way of making you question everything. Your choices, your worth, even your purpose. At my lowest, I caught myself thinking, did I make a mistake coming here? Am I actually capable of building a life so far from everything I know? But over time, I realized that self-doubt isn't just an obstacle. It's a mirror. Being alone forced me to sit with myself, to hear my own thoughts without the constant noise of familiar distractions. And in that silence, I started to understand that my doubts weren't proof of failure. They were just growing pains. I had to learn to trust my own decisions, to be kinder to myself, and stop looking for external validation. Loneliness taught me that being alone doesn't mean being lost. It means facing yourself fully, learning who you really are when no one else is around to define you. And once I embraced that, I stopped seeing solitude as something to escape from and started seeing it as something to grow from and even enjoy it. If you've ever dealt with loneliness, share what helped you in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And don't forget to subscribe so I can quit my day job and you can hear more stories about life abroad. Loneliness is tough, but it's also a reminder of our shared humanity. And sometimes, that's what brings us closer together.